So, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And why are they important? We're going to cover specifically each of those categories and talk about why they're important. We're also going to go over intersectionality and the building of a positive sense of identity. In this workshop, we're going to have two guest speakers. So that's fantastic in and of itself. And after the guest speakers, we have prepared takeaways and they're going to be questions and answers. So we want you to know that as a workshop, it's power packed. We're here for it. It's a happy Friday. So we want you to feel comfortable sharing. Remember, sharing is caring. And we will receive these items as I read them. Feel like I'm in church reading the program. So here's my question I like to ask to begin with to know. I'm asking this question to everyone in the workshop. What makes up your identity? I need for you to either unmute yourself or share in the chat 3 things that you feel are your most defining identity traits. So what makes up your identity? Share 3 things. You can unmute yourself and talk it out or add it to the chat. 3 things that you feel are important and they most define your identity traits.
What would be yours, Sam? What would be your 3?
I know I was about to yell out my one is I'm a talker. So even just looking at me, say we're not knowing each other, you're going to know she's a talker. I'm also a beautifully Black woman. So I like that as my identifier because it's what you see. Last trait is even before I started saying happy day every day, I appear to be a happy person. So when people walk up to me or see me, they just assumed that I was happy about everything. So those things identify me. I'm a talker, I'm happy, and what's my other trait? A strong Black woman.
There we go. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I'll share too while you guys are still chiming in the chat or unmuting yourself. I will say I am Black. I think that that's one of my main identity traits that really I'm most conscious of. I'm a man, and I will say working in education. That's something that I'm conscious of as that responsibility. Working in education, working with students of all types, I definitely identify with that, and I feel like that really defines who I am and what my role is. But what about you guys? What are some of your key identity traits and things that you are conscious of that label or define yourself? Oops, Sam, I think you are on mute.
I'm sorry. I was reading all of May's stuff saying she's a PPW, positive perfectionist workaholic. May's other identifier is she's shy and Asian Hispanic. Tell us about that PPW. I love it. You
Yeah.
introduced yourself as positive. So I love that. May.
Very cool. We got Ashley and Grant, which are our guest speakers, chiming in.
Thank
Ashley is
you
a college
guys.
student. She's outgoing. She's a Hispanic female. We got Grant is Christian, Afro queer, and a college student. I love all of the different ways you guys are answering this question. We've got Kyoto
Absolutely.
Red Sea. She is a Motswana woman, shy but very sociable. I love that. Shy but sociable. Definitely can
Shy
relate.
and so that's sweet and sassy.
There you go. Yes, I see. We got Monica, a woman, a mother, Cuban Jewish. Love that. Adeline, always wanting to learn more, small but mighty, and visually impaired. Very cool. Yeah. Oh, we got another. Jessica, servant leader, Chicana Hispanic, and social introvert.
But
Um,
there we go. That sassy. What is it? Sweet and sassy.
Sweet and
Social
sassy.
introvert. How does that work? I love it. How does
I
that
love it.
work?
I feel it. I definitely I know I don't know how it works, but I know exactly what you mean, Jessica.
That is
Well,
amazing to me.
these are great. Yeah, I love
Mhm.
all of this, and I encourage you guys all to check out the chat and just see kind of who else is in the room. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah,
And I love
Minori
just
says, I'm sorry, Jordan, but
no,
Minori
no,
is
no,
a
go.
single mom, a full-time worker, and student. That is definitely identifiers.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
Liz is patient, Hispanic, and a college student.
All
Yes,
right. Very cool. No, I think this is super awesome, and thank you guys all for sharing and just getting to know us and the room a little bit.
absolutely.
Okay.
So diversity actually equals all of those variety, those various traits within us. So there are differences between individuals. And even though in our top three, some of us, well, we're women, we share that. However, diversity, true diversity is that difference in our identities. So we want to delve into how the diversity occurs because there's a variety of identity traits within each of us. So ACC is for everyone. And even in this group, we are exhibiting examples of the aspects of diversity. There's age, there's culture and background, there's the educational background, physical abilities, gender and sexuality, our socioeconomic status. All are factors that make us uniquely diverse. And at ACC, all of us are welcome.
And I love that even just I think we've touched on maybe everything on these
Mhm.
categories just in what you guys have shared so far,
Absolutely.
um, which is really awesome and cool. And so, yeah, essentially, one of the concepts that we link to diversity is intersectionality, looking at this sort of interconnected nature of your identity. You're diverse too. So a population can be diverse, like this room has all different kinds of people, but so are you guys. You know, we saw a mix of sex and gender, race, all within one specific individual. And so looking at the three identity traits that you guys shared, just sort of think about these questions and see what kind of comes to mind. What part of your identity are you most aware of on a daily basis? What part of your identity are you least aware of on a daily basis? What part of your identity was maybe most important to your family growing up? What part of yourself do you wish that you maybe knew more about? What part of you do you feel is maybe the most misunderstood by others? What do you find difficult to discuss with others about your identity? And finally, which part of yourself do you feel that you are most likely to be discriminated against because? And so all of these questions really link to this concept of intersectionality, looking at all the different pieces that make up you and how they interact and how they form one solid person. So we have got our inequality. We're going to introduce this concept of inequality. And so we want to look at some of the boundaries to education and opportunity based on identity, kind of what you guys have shared so far, or maybe something that you haven't shared, looking at this concept of inequality. And so for you guys, looking at kind of just that term, what does that mean to you? What comes to your mind when you hear inequality? And you can leave that in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself and just talk a little bit about what does that mean to you?
I'm ready to read the chat, guys. So you can unmute yourself or pop it in the chat. What is inequality? That word, you hear it all the time. It's something that's a part of our society these days. What is it to you?
Yeah. Or maybe an example even. Either, yeah,
Mhm.
something that you would describe.
Let's get one of those shy but social people in this workshop to give us an example of
I think
inequality.
we got Salome.
Yeah. And the accessibility to resources based on various circumstances in or out of our control. Absolutely. Absolutely. Julia says not being given a fair chance for no good reason. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's a
Mhm.
great breakdown for sure. It's about accessibility to
Absolutely.
resources, not being given a fair chance.
Yep, a lack of fairness in terms of opportunity, resources, and accessibility to pathways that elevate one's wellness. Absolutely. Those are perfect examples, definitions, the living we see of inequalities. Thank you,
Absolutely.
guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for sharing. That's really great. And so we have sort of an illustration that will help us think through this concept of inequality and these boundaries. And specifically, we're going to be talking about education because all of us are connected to education in some way, either students or faculty members. And so that's what we're going to kind of focus on today. This
Yeah.
is a visual, a comic that Sam actually found, and I've fallen in love with because I think it's so perfect. It illustrates the concept of inequality. And you guys may be familiar with this visual, or maybe have seen it in passing. Essentially, it's kind of a visual allegory, an example of what inequality looks like and how we get towards a more balanced path. And so this is sort of the first stage, inequality, unequal access to opportunities. We see the system set up kind of with the tree and the apples. We got our two main characters here. Person on the left has the opportunities, the access, is getting the apples falling straight to them. Person on the right, not quite as fortunate. They don't have really as many apples, and it's a little bit harder for them to fall. And so there's an imbalance there. There's definitely something to be done. And so the
So in
next
the chat,
stage, the
I'm sorry,
progression.
Jordan. I'm sorry,
No,
Jordan. In the
please.
chat, we have perfectly what you're saying. For someone who has a disability, inequality means not being able to have the tools needed to be able to be on the same playing field. So right there in the chat,
Absolutely. That's perfect.
just wanted
Yeah,
you
I
to.
love that. I love the definitely keep in mind that word tools because that's a really perfect explanation of that. So thank you, Adeline. Yeah, that's great. And so yeah, inequality, we can all agree that this is not fair, right? This isn't great. There needs to be something done. We wouldn't want to be the person on the right. Nobody would choose to be in that circumstance or situation. And so let's talk about equality with a little question mark there because it's sort of up for debate, right? And so equality would be the next step, which is evenly distributing tools and assistance. And so what do you guys notice about this stage here? What are some things that have changed? What's new?
Giving the same
Ah,
tools doesn't necessarily equal fairness. Absolutely. That's funny. Our mind
absolutely.
eyes read what you're saying before you
Yeah,
say it. So thank you. I got the tools, but I don't have many resources. Gotcha. Gotcha, May.
absolutely.
So May is like, yep, we're both on ladders. We got everything, but something's still amiss. I got you. Good
Absolutely.
job, May.
Yeah, because we see the ladders, right? They got the same ladder. They both have little bags now to hold their apples, but the system is the same. So there's still not as many apples on the right side of the tree. Tree is still a little bit bent, and the person on the right has further to go. Like they're not within arm's reach. They can't grab the apple, even though they have the ladder. They've got the bag. They're both allowed to stand by the tree. There's not as many apples available to them, and they have further to go. So that ladder isn't what they need. And so next stage from there, we've got equity, and that's a great keyword, right? We said we were going to talk about equity today. Here's the introduction of that. And so equity, custom tools that identify and address inequality. And so just like you guys mentioned, it's a custom tool. Now the person on the right, their ladder is a little bit taller. Now they're both within arm's reach. They can both grab the apples. Person on the right had further to go, and so there was an adjustment for that. They gave them a bigger ladder, and so that's great, right? Is there anywhere else further to go? Is there anything else that we could do with this system? Is there another step? What do you guys think? Is there something else that needs to be fixed here?
Yep. So unmute yourselves or pop it in the chat. We see Ashley is saying coming across resources to help you succeed. We got that.
That's
The
great.
person on
Absolutely.
the right received a taller ladder. So those are some resources. We also have sometimes one person may need more tools, resources than the other. That's
Yep.
perfect. On the right, there's a taller ladder. but is it equal, kinda? But do we still have a miss? Is something
Yeah,
still kind of like going on there?
I think
And
it's very much like Grant mentioned earlier, just there's still not that fairness in terms of resources, right?
yep, and you guys are saying in the chat, May is like, you can aid the person on the right by giving them more apples from the left. Got that.
Absolutely.
Apples are few on the right. Got that. So you're
Yeah,
seeing the issues.
absolutely. Yes,
And
the left has more apples. Shake the tree or move the ladder. Shake that tree. I love that. Some people need more resources. Absolutely. Yeah, that you guys got it. The apples are still few on the right. There's still not as many apples. And so even though they can reach them easier now, there's still not as many apples. Person on the left is still set up a little bit better. And so the final kind of peg here is justice. That's the eventual last step. Is we've got the tools, we've adjusted for equity, and now we're saying, all right, let's fix the tree because the tree is also not right. We got to straighten up the tree a little bit. It's still sagging to one side. We're going to distribute these apples evenly to give people equal access to both tools and opportunities to say that yes, they both have ladders, they both have bags, but now the apples are equal. Now they both have the same chance of getting that opportunity, getting the good thing that they want. And so thank you guys for walking through this visual with us. This is going to be sort of the graphic and metaphor that we use to talk through this back half of the presentation in terms of building that better system, building that better community. And so let's start out by talking about the first stage there, acknowledging differences. We want to look at that first stage when we've noticed that there's a difference, that there's an inequality. Person on the left has more apples. Person on the right can't reach the apples, and there's not as many. And so we want to talk about boundaries to education and opportunity. And so here are a few examples of some boundaries to education and opportunity that you may have experienced or know someone that's experienced or have just heard about, right? These are some of the most common ones. In the middle, we've got technology, right? That's super common and super pressing today for sure. Now that we're virtual, I'm sure that a lot of you guys have maybe experienced some love-hate relationship with the online classes. And it is suffice to say that some students did not continue the semester because it was going to be virtual and are waiting to get back to in-person classes. Some students tried it out and dropped out because they couldn't do the virtual classes, either because they just didn't like the format or because they literally did not have access to the technology or a stable internet connection or a computer with a webcam. And so that technology was a huge obstacle and boundary. Next up, we got financial boundaries. This one honestly could have gone in the center for sure. Could have been right front and center because financial is huge, and I'm sure a lot of us have struggled with our financial obligations. And so financial boundaries could be anything like not being able to pay for school. It could be not being able to pay for textbooks once you actually get to sign up for classes. It could be struggling because maybe your computer broke and you can't afford to get a replacement. Or it could be the fact that maybe you have to work a lot because you're trying to pay for school. And so you're struggling in your classes because you have to juggle two jobs, which can be a lot. All those things are really difficult and boundaries that can either prevent someone from getting an education or cause them to pause or drop out and stop. We got some other ones here to run through as well. We got health as a boundary. And so that could be anything from physical health. I know we mentioned and got into a little bit of the disabilities, visual impairments, deaf or hard of hearing. Those are absolutely obstacles and boundaries that can prevent opportunities for education. Even something as simple as captions being provided for videos for students that are deaf or hard of hearing. If the professor doesn't have that available, that's a boundary to education. But it can also be things like mental health, right? And so depression, anxiety, disassociation, just not feeling present, causing you to drop out or maybe question what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, which can be really difficult to get through, almost equally or more some of the physical health issues. We have also got educational history, and so I'm sure that some of you guys here have maybe struggled with the TSI testing, getting approved to take certain classes, maybe struggling with history in specific subjects or courses and needing support, and that's a huge obstacle. Maybe some of you have taken a significant hiatus from school, and maybe this is your first time back to college after 10 years or 12 years or however long, and that history is a huge obstacle or boundary. And finally, we've got language, and so this one is huge as well. Students that speak English as a second language or a third language and then have difficulty just with the content from the professors, the actual language boundary, which can be really difficult for a lot of students, and it can cause them to be discouraged from their education. And so what else? What are some other boundaries or obstacles that you guys could think of that could belong on this wall? They can be personal, for sure, if you have had personal boundaries that you want to talk through. They don't have to be if you just want to think of some examples of some other stuff. But there's definitely more. And so what do you guys think?
I could say definitely
Thank
support. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Juliet Devine.
Happy Friday. Thank you.
Nice to meet you guys. Yeah, for me, one that sticks out is support, because I realize not having family can be impactful, especially for individuals like myself who maybe have children, or having to work and not having enough income, and you're wanting to work to pay bills for your own apartment and still pay for school, or even resources like I think about Learning Lab now, going through COVID and me realizing losing those accessibilities, because I'm a on-campus kind of student. So losing those resources and getting that help with writing or math or what have you, those are things that I feel like are very important. And those are like other differences, because some students who maybe attended ACC for 2-3 years may not need those resources anymore. But for incoming students who are new to this, it's a whole different dynamic compared to high school. So
You're
that
absolutely
is one
correct.
that is important to me, is support, whether from school, family, community. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, McCall. And it's great to kind of put the name with the face. I've been
Yeah.
emailing back and forth with McCall a little bit, just kind of coordinating, getting some guests for today. And that's a great input and response. Absolutely. Support, just having access to the support, navigating, knowing how to do it. And now that things have kind of been turned on their head with virtual, how to do that all now. Maybe there was some stuff that you were getting in person that you don't know how to do virtually, which can be really difficult to navigate. And so, absolutely, I think that that's really important, and that's a great segue into
Absolutely.
the next step. So,
I
we
love
want
this.
to talk about learning about available resources. And so this is like finding your ladder, right? This is the equity portion of, we sense that disparity, we sense those differences, and so we talk about available support resources. And so these are just a few of the departments that I wanted to highlight today, and that I wanted to make sure you guys knew about, and I can definitely help you get more information or get connected to any of these services. But here are just a few. We've got student technology services. And so this is everything from troubleshooting tech issues to getting access to devices. It truly does encompass a lot. And so if technology is that boundary, definitely reach out and get connected. And we're going to send a takeaway form today, and you guys will get links to all these, so don't worry about that. But yeah, I definitely encourage you guys to get connected with them. We've got financial aid as well. What are some of the different types of financial aid that you guys know about? What are some examples of financial aid at ACC?
Yep. You can throw it in the chat or unmute yourself. What types of financial aid emails that you guys have gotten saying, we have money for you? Anything comes to mind?
With scholarships, grants, loans.
Yes. Yep, that grants, the free money. Perfect,
Free
May.
money.
You're absolutely right. The Pell Grants. And now that we have COVID going on, there's the acronym CLARISA. I'm saying it wrong because I'm trying to make it a word, but there are financial funds strictly for students through this COVID time. Thank you, May. See, I tried to make that a word. That's not a word.
Emergency.
Right.
Student emergency fund. Yes, thank you, McCall, and Jessica actually posted in the chat the student emergency fund, right? And so, yeah, the scholarships, work study Pell Grants, there's stuff before the semester even starts. That's helpful. The student emergency fund, maybe after the semester is picked up. If you guys didn't know, those are for those unexpected disasters and events that you couldn't have foreseen. Student emergency fund is awesome. The COVID response relief fund, CRSSA, absolutely encourage you to make that known and put that on your radar, because that is a amazing resource that I'm so glad is available. And so, yeah, there is financial support for before the semester, throughout the semester, and there's even the student money management office that can help you with beyond the semester, can help you create those strategies and habits for budgeting and being more in control of your finances, helping you save and start a savings account.
That's
And
a good
so,
program to get into. That's a real good.
absolutely, I love the student money management office.
I would like to add another thing is they allow students who are foster or adoptees to get full rides, especially before the age of 24, and they still qualify for financial aid on top of that. So that's another key thing to know, like if you know anyone who's a foster or an adoptee.
That is amazing. And I did not know about that. So that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like I'm learning new stuff even today to share, which is awesome. And so definitely, yeah. And for these resources, even if they don't necessarily apply to you, definitely know about them in case you see somebody that can benefit to pass that information along. I think that's so helpful. Well, excellent. So yeah, we've got the financial aid, we've got online tutoring as well. And so that would be for some of that educational background stuff, right? I'm going to throw academic coaching in there as well for support with specific subjects. Maybe if math has never been your thing, working one-on-one with the tutor so that you don't have to do it alone. We've also got student accessibility services, which is very awesome and very excellent. And I love working with them and helping students get connected to their accommodations. And so if you do qualify for accommodations or don't know what that is and want to learn more about that, definitely reach out and I can get you some great information to get you connected with them. We've got clinical counseling available at ACC. They're an amazing resource, and it's easier than ever right now to get connected with a clinical counselor at ACC. They're virtual, they're online, and previously you had to kind of go through this long waiting list process of when they were at your campus, but right now they're available, and I definitely encourage you to connect with that free opportunity. And more. I wanted to highlight the student support page, which has links to all of this information and all of these resources at ACC. There's community resources. I truly challenge you guys to find something that's not included here. I mean, they have everything, and I feel like every semester I learn about something else, from like childcare, legal help, housing and utility assistance. I mean, anything that's a boundary and obstacle to education, they're talking about, they're including, and they're making an effort to support, which I think is really excellent. And so you guys will definitely get a link to this and all the other resources that we've talked about for today to make sure that you check out. But yeah, definitely love these, and I'm glad that you guys know a lot about these already. Definitely take advantage of them. And so far, we've talked a little bit about the resources that are available, noticing those differences and boundaries, making those connections, and supporting yourself. We want to shift to talking a little bit about creating that positive sense of identity, right? And making sure that you start with yourself. Part of building a better community starts with you and making sure that you're feeling better about your own identity in the way that intersectionality comes into play, right? And so I love this part. I love this slide, essentially talking about positive affirmations of identity. We want to make sure that you guys are feeling good about all of the aspects that you've shared so far today. And so here are some ways that you can create more of a positive sense of identity using these positive affirmations. I definitely encourage you to do these. And sometimes it's just really helpful to say these out loud and to have these positive definers for yourself. And so starting with the words I am, right? Always want to start with yourself and defining yourself in a positive way. I am healthy. I am safe. Even some of the specific identity describers that you've shared today. I am Black. I'm a man. Really defining what you are and feeling comfortable with it, feeling confident in saying it. keeping it positive. Affirm what you want, not what you don't want. I value others. People will value me. I am a productive member of my community. I care about people. I want to help others. Make it specific, including dynamic emotions or feelings. My perspective is helpful. My friends support me and would help me if I need it. Even getting even more specific. My family or my mom has shared so much with me, and I love that she shares those things. My friends appreciate having me around, and they always invite me out because I'm a great person to be around. And then finally, including actions. Affirm yourself as a person who takes action. Tie it to something that you do and that you're doing. I will bring a respectful attitude to class every day. I will treat everybody kindly. I will be a listener. I'll make sure that everyone that I talk to feels heard and doesn't feel ignored. I'm using these positive steps to create more of a holistic sense of self that you can practice and do. And again, you'll get a copy of this to practice with yourself for some of these positive affirmations of identity, which I think is really important in building that better community, starting with you.
Chelsea shared in the chat that, and I agree with you, I love these I am statements because they are empowering, and it all starts with us and then it goes out into the world. So thank you for sharing that share. I agree. Thank you, Chelsea.
I would like to say something as well.
Please, yeah.
When I started my first semester at ACC, being a Black woman and coming into ACC from the East Side, I realized that a lot of my peers of color were not staying in school. And so I took it upon myself to connect with other students to try to figure out what is the issue, because I was getting tired of being the only, single Black woman in the class and all my peers falling away. So connecting with them, I told them because their issue was they didn't feel supported. They didn't know how to trick their minds into believing that they could be successful and they could complete whatever. And so I remember connecting with one student, and he was not good at math. And I told him, I said, your attitude creates your aptitude. I said, so if you can convince yourself you are great at math, then you open a window to allow math to be received by you. If you keep saying I suck at math or I'm not good at math, then that's what you'll be, because at the end of the day, we are what we attract, right? So words carry spirit. So I told him, I said, do this every morning and every night. Say, I am great at math. Math is attracted to me and I'm successful at it. Literally, it took him a whole semester to get it, but he went from making an F from one semester to making an A the next semester. And I saw him 2 semesters after that situation, and he literally ran up to me and hugged me, and I was taken aback. And it's so awesome that something as simple as I am great at math. One thing that Maya Angelou always said, fake it till you make it. Someone's opinion about you should not dictate how you live your life or how you choose to go into whatever, right? So yes, I love these I am statements. Fake it till you make it. If you have to say I am prosperous, I am wealthy, I am intelligent, I am successful in all my courses, I am making A's in all my courses. And if you don't, then it's okay. But the intention was set, right? You chose to reach for a high bar versus just to take what you feel is given to you. So I feel like that's so important. So
Absolutely.
thank y'all for this.
Absolutely.
I love
you.
this.
Me too.
Thank
you for
you.
sharing.
Yeah, that was a
brings
great
us to
example.
the next slide,
Yeah.
Jordan. Isn't that
Yes.
perfect?
That was really perfect. Yeah. And so I wanna skip around a little bit just because I want to make sure that we get our guest speakers in today, because I just love how organic this feels and how awesome it is to have everybody sharing. And I think this is a really great atmosphere. And so let me go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and introduce some of our guest speakers. Essentially, we have 2 categories. This is kind of the last stage, right? Building that justice, fixing the tree. We're starting with ourselves, those positive I am statements, feeling better about ourselves and our own identity and what we can do. getting access to resources. And so here's how we can start to fix the tree, right? Straighten it out, balance it out, and really spread out those apples. And so we want to talk about being heard and building community. We've got a couple of really awesome guest speakers that I've come to know. Sam knows as well, just kind of by chance. And we want to introduce them and have them talk a little bit. We have Grant Lovelace here, who's going to talk a little bit about being heard and student activism, speaking out for causes that you're passionate about. We have Ashley Pacina, who's going to talk about building community as a student life organization leader here at ACC. And so let's get Grant. And I want to definitely talk to him because he's so awesome. And I had a really great time getting to know him a little bit. And so, Grant, are you with us this morning?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
All right.
Hey,
Well,
happy
good morning,
Friday.
sir.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Love that. And I
Yeah.
love how excited and energetic everybody is at 10 a.m. on a Friday morning.
Exactly.
I think it's the topic. I think it's because we all love talking about this. But thank you so much, Grant. I'm really glad that you were able to come and participate in this. Why don't you start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Grant Lovelace, as you all can see on the screen. I have been at ACC for about 3 years, 2.5 years now. I am a communication studies major as well. I work in the city of Austin as a youth consultant and liaison for a lot of different nonprofits or businesses that are seeking assistance in recruiting youth, training youth on identity development, as well as creating strategies to engage with them, whether it's short term or long term. So simply, all I do is I'm just a student 24/7.
There you go. Which we love it. And then that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to come and have you talk, because you are a student. And I think that that's really awesome to have a student that's so involved, and hopefully that'll motivate and inspire others. And so one of the reasons why I reached out to you originally and wanted to have you come and speak today was because of your involvement with the student newspaper here at your time at ACC, the Accent student newspaper. You wrote a lot of really awesome articles that I'll make sure everybody gets a link to today. But what made you interested in writing for a student newspaper?
I think really what grabbed my interest about writing for a student newspaper was the fact that I had the opportunity to tell my story and have a platform to where I could also have these difficult, uncomfortable conversations as well with students through the newspaper. What really captured my interest at first was just storytelling, period. Storytelling itself is a beautiful art that I've always just been attracted to. Just learning how students tell their stories and how those stories can turn to action or movement or something that can create a catalyst in their journey of being an activist or being a writer. So getting into Accent, I love Accent. When they had when I initially connected with them, they asked me, "Oh, what's your passions? What do you like to write about? What do you like to do? Who are you?" And I think that really just navigated me in that space to say, okay, these are my passions. This is what I love to write about. And through that, I was able to write a lot of different articles that touched on identity, race, gender, as well as activism as well.
Absolutely. And so that's awesome. That's really excellent. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Just wanting to tell your story, other people's stories, feeling positive about creating that change. And so what does activism mean to you as a student?
I would say as a student, activism just means to me doing something that changes the status quo. I've always told people you don't have to do anything big. You don't have to, have to create a whole conference or a summit. You can easily get a group of students together and have difficult conversations, and that can be a way that you activate change in your school. You can join the student newspaper, like I did, and and write about the passions, about things that interest you, and hone your skills of being a writer and being a storyteller. There's plenty of things that you can do to be an activist, but for me, it's always been about how do you change the status quo? How do you change this system? How do you redefine something that is inequitable or that does have inequality implemented into it? I feel like a lot of student activists or like students in general think you have to do something big, like huge. Like I gotta do a summit, I gotta do a conference, I have to do a roundtable discussion. No, you don't. You don't. Trust me, you don't. Really, it's all about how do you want to approach the problem and create that solution. You know, for me, I've always been a frontline person to where if there's an issue, I'm there. Like I'm over here, I'm a speaker, I'm here. Whereas with some other people, they're more comfortable being in the back. Like they're more comfortable doing the social media strategies. They're more comfortable helping out with the planning and programming of events. So it's like there's plenty of different positions of leadership that you can take. It doesn't necessarily have to be you standing in the front line of the issue. Like you don't have to be in the front of the march. You could easily be in the back helping out with the picket signs. You could be in the back being a volunteer manager. You could be in the back. You could do a lot of things. I mean, there's plenty of different leadership opportunities that are created for creating those spaces to where activism can take place and creating that status quo. So for me, it's all about how are you creating change? It doesn't matter how big or how small. It's just about taking that first step because boldness, having that initial action, that boldness is really what matters because it's really hard to take that first step and say, okay, I recognize the issue and I'm going to change it. Whether it's by myself, whether it's with my community, or whether it's getting a lot of different students together to tackle on the issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's a really great point about it doesn't have to be huge. You know, I know we've got some people that are self-identified as shy or maybe introverted and don't want to do the whole grab the mic, and that's totally cool. Like you can create change, and I think it's important, as you said, to talk about something that you care about, that you're passionate about. And so one of your articles from Accent that I love a lot and that I think was super awesome, and actually have a link to here, was being on the front lines of advocacy, change, and justice. And we don't have time to go into the full scope because it's so awesome and definitely worth time to explore. But I'll make sure everybody gets a link to this today. You have some amazing tips that are really about getting started in activism, getting started as a student that wants to create that change and that wants to be more involved in their community. Which would you say is maybe one of the most useful for you, just out of those 5 tips that you shared for youth looking to be more involved in advocacy and activism?
I would definitely say for me, I've been asked this question before and I'm like, oh, which one? I would definitely say find your, making yourself your number one priority. For myself, when I first started off at ACC, I did not know what I was doing. And I joined so many organizations. I mean, so many. I mean, it was crazy. I was a communications officer for an engineering group. And I don't even know nothing about engineering. I don't even know why I was there. But I was joining so many groups. I was in the Student Government Association. I was with Student Life. I was over here in this organization doing this on a third. And I was working with all these different people in so many places. And I didn't really recognize where my self-care was. And I didn't put myself first in terms of, okay, am I making sure I meditate? Am I making sure that I have time to just take away and just breathe? You know, because so often do a lot of activists stretch themselves too thin with so many commitments. You know, we see in a lens like, okay, there's a problem every single where. We have to be here, we have to be there, we have to go to this meeting, we have to go to this event, we have to go to this speaking engagement. And we really don't have time to slow down and say, okay, what does self-care mean? How am I taking care of myself? What does that look like? What patterns or what systems do I have to develop in order to reach these goals of self-care? Because when I think about sleeping, eating, meditation, decompressing, and realigning your space and your energy and where your spirit flows in these spaces, it's always important to just take time out for yourself and make sure that when you step into a room or even like a virtual room, that you are 100% there, that your mind is good, your spirit is good, that you know for a sure fact that you are here in your whole body and that you're here to deliver these, these essentials in a sense to others about what you do, how you do it, and the work that will be done. So I really do believe that you have to be your number one priority. You have to make sure that you're eating right, that you're sleeping, that you're exercising. And even if you don't exercise, you're just making sure that you're taking care of yourself, because so often does a lot of this stuff in the outside world, or even in school, as a student leader, you got to think about classes. You have to think about what's going on in your community. You got to think about what's going on with these policies. You got to, it's like a million things are coming at you and you're only one person, and that kind of goes to the point of you're not alone also. But I would definitely say making sure you're your number one priority is very important, because you don't want to forget about yourself and then get stressed.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really awesome. And I would agree. I think that's a great tip that, if anybody is looking to be more engaged and create that meaningful change, you're your number one priority. Don't do anything that's going to put you out or that's going to make you feel not safe. Take care of yourself. Make sure you do have that time for downtime. Absolutely. And so thank you so much, Grant, for sharing. We're gonna move on and get to Ashley. But does anybody have any questions or thoughts for Grant before we do? Okay, well, next up we have Miss Ashley. Oops. We've got Miss Ashley, who I love so much. And we wanted to talk a little bit about building community, kind of on the other side of that. And so Ashley is the president of the Latinx Student Union here at ACC that I've asked to come and talk a little bit about how she's gotten involved and built community. Ashley, are you with us this morning?
Yes, I am, Jordan, but I'm not going to turn on my camera because it keeps on kicking me off.
Gotcha. No problem. Then technology boundaries do us all. But why don't you start out by just telling us a little bit about you?
Hi, my name is Ashley Pacina, and I'm the president and founder of Latinx Student Union. And this organization was an organization that I founded almost 2 years ago that I felt that was really needed at ACC, and just to build a community.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I totally agree with that. Definitely needed. Definitely something that is so valuable to build those communities. And so what made you interested in getting involved in student life and leading a community like this?
So I started ACC in 2009. I was 19 years old, and I came across student life by joining a Hispanic Student Association that's no longer here at ACC. Just to find a sense of where I belong, and just to build a community. So being in student life has really helped me branch out to be a leader, to help my community, and to help my fellow peers, and to help myself see a different version of myself.
Yeah, I think that's so awesome and really relatable for a lot of students, hopefully, that also want to see themselves represented, that want to see themselves become a leader and be a part of something and find that community. And so
Yeah.
this is the LXSU mission statement, which I love a lot. It does include a lot of the amazing thoughts of inclusion, support, talking about these important topics. And I think that you have a couple of your officers with you today as well.
Yes, I have my social media ambassador and my secretary, Anna Granger and Salome.
Okay. Yeah, do you
And
guys want to
then
shout out and say hi?
Hello.
Hey, y'all.
and then we do have one of our fabulous academic advisors, Jess Ghost. If you want to say hi, Jess.
Hey, everyone.
Good morning. Yeah, and I love what Lxsu is doing. I think is so awesome. And so the one thing that I wanted to make sure that I ask about, and I know we're kind of running against the the clock here today, but I see that you guys posted in the chat just about how people can get connected, which I think is really awesome. I definitely encourage you guys to check that out. But if there was one thing that you guys could accomplish this year with the LXSU, what would it be? What's on your agenda? What would you love to accomplish? Let's say sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. I think it's already April and we've accomplished what we need to.
Mhm.
For this semester, my goal for summer and fall would be, because Island and May, when they're leaving, a few of our other officers are leaving. So it's just gonna be me, my advisors, and one more officer that are gonna be here. So my goal is to continue Lxsu so that we can grow bigger and just be a resource for students that don't feel like they have support. I mean, they have support, because with support, it does help you. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great vision, and I want that as well, to keep these organizations going. And so if you guys have not heard about student life in the organizations, I definitely encourage you to check them out. Starting with Lxsu. They have the links to all their stuff there. They're doing some really awesome stuff, creating this community, and I think it's really excellent, and it's
And
open. Yeah.
I mean, we were nominated, this past week, or for Nine to Life. When
Yeah.
I was nominated for 2 solos, and the team was nominated for Org of the Year and for Advisor of the Year.
Mhm.
So hopefully next year, we'll be up there again.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's so excellent and awesome. And so thank you so much, Ashley. And thank you guys. I know that we're kind of over time today, but what questions or thoughts do you have? If you have to leave, totally fine. But we're opening the floor. If you have any questions or thoughts about diversity, identity, community at ACC, any experiences that you want to share, I'm here. Would love to hear it, and would love to have you guys share any final thoughts or questions before we wrap up for today.
My final thought for today is that I'm glad that I came back to ACC, because the second time around, I'm doing better. And I've met people like Jessica and a couple other people who have helped me become me who I am. So, and that's one thing that I take away from this, is that the support system that I have now and has really helped me grow as an individual.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Alita. Yeah, thank you so much. Definitely, I'll make sure that the recording, you guys can get a link to that when that's out. Since we kind of had to skip around a little bit, you guys can also have access to the PowerPoint if you're interested, to go back through some of those affirmations. I think that's super awesome and excellent. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys all for coming out this morning, and for hanging with me and sharing such amazing, powerful experiences. This is a great atmosphere. Yeah, I'll be around for a few more minutes for sure, but feel free to share and definitely get connected. I'll follow up with you guys in an email with just a link to all of the stuff that Ashley's doing, some of Grant's work as well, which is really excellent, and just a summary of everything that we have covered and talked about today. And you can definitely always connect with academic coaching to continue these conversations and talk about the support or boundaries that you want to address this semester.
Thank you, Jordan, for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming, and thank you to all of the Lxsu officers. I want to say thank you to McCall Devine as well, just for sharing a little bit of your experiences and the stories that you've come across. I think that was really valuable. And everyone, honestly, thank you. Everyone that has shared, even in the chat, coming off mute, I think has made this workshop anything more than what I said. Honestly, you guys have said far more than we could have put on these slides. So thank you so much.